75% is the 4-H coordinator.
That's correct. One of the other changes that happened in our office, we had 2 administrative assistants in that time, and we've been reduced down to 1 single administrative assistant. But in the loss of some of that, the program coordinator for 4-H is helping to pick up the programmatic aspect. So the coordinator is a different position, and again, it was paid at sort of budgeted at a half-time position to cover 4-H programmatic specific to the county. So in the chain, my responsibilities have been moved in some cases outside of the county. So to cover and make sure that the in-county 4-H program doesn't suffer, the program coordinator is focusing county specific. So in this sense, that 16,000 is the county's obligation towards the program coordinator position to allow that county specific program.
I'd like to zero that down to a number. You're saying that the county's portion that we're picking up in excess, because this is lost my notes here, specialist, I believe is what it was, is
program coordinator.
Our program.
Yep.
What is that extra cost being incurred by the county this time for that position?
Well, there's no extra cost.
What is the cost?
The cost for the program coordinator, the county portion is $16,800.
16,000. Okay, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Yeah. And so what made that position possible was the reduction in administrative help that we had. So we haven't changed the number of staff in the office. It's just changed the position and the focus of that staff. So we have 1 administrative assistant, and then with the reduction of the 1 administrative assistant, that position essentially has been changed to a program coordinator to allow that person to be more county-specific youth and 4-H program work within the county.
Thank you. I understand that. The rest of the counties have bought into this, and that there's no issue with the other counties throughout the state?
That's correct.
That's correct. And in fact, Stratford County has come back into supporting cooperative extension after being gone for that 1 year, and they are supporting the same model. They also have a program coordinator in 4-H in their county.
Thank you. So all counties have a 4-H coordinator, and that 4-H coordinator is now being paid more directly by the individual counties. I understand they bought into the program.
Right.
My question is on 4-H coordinator.
On 4-H program coordinators, not every single county has a 4-H program coordinator. It was a discussion that we had in each county, and there are only, let's see, Cheshire County and Sullivan County. There are only 2 counties that do not have program coordinators.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So I don't know what else you want elaboration on the 4-H program coordinator.
Okay, I have a couple questions, and
sure.
I'll open it back up subcommittee. We were given some data from 2008, which I believe was the first year numbers were kept to 2012. And there was a period of time of great expanse of participants when a federal program, I'm going to simplify this, after-school program came to be. And that was a tipping point which gave you a lot more participants. When I look at 4-H club members themselves, are these numbers that I'm seeing, or are these my roll numbers that sign up at the beginning and are here throughout the whole season? Is there some fluctuation in those numbers, enthusiasm's lost, and you might lose a member here and there?
Yes, those are initial enrollment numbers.
So in some years, I think in the beginning it was down, came up some, and if I remember right, it had gone down,
yeah,
and it had come up slightly.
Yeah.
My question I had before, and Ann had told me that the people that are participating as, I use my example, I'm a youth sports coach for hundreds of years.
Absolutely.
And we had an organization that was in charge of the program, but we as volunteers were the ones that were there day to day to teach the skills and make sure the children understood, played, and had fun. And my understanding is, other than the coordinator, the rest of the people are voluntary positions.
Yes.
Over the term of 2008 to 2012, when I was coaching, we had to teach how to throw a ball, how to catch a ball, how to run the base, how to bat. They're basic skills that continue year after year throughout the game. It might change from aluminum bat to wood. Is it fair to say from 2008 to 2012, without maybe an inclusion of a program or two, but your program is pretty standardized?
Yeah, standardized, in the sense of the club as one of our delivery modes. So we work with volunteers as coaches and give them the support they need to run a club or a team. So it is fairly standardized in emphasizing positive youth development, goal setting and life skills for youth, and they do a variety of projects. Boys are typically known for it's agricultural-based projects, animal science projects, but we do a lot of science-based projects, home craft projects. So depending on the interest of the volunteer adults and their interest areas, their clubs have various focuses. And so that's fairly standardized. And then we assist, our program coordinator and myself assist those volunteer adults in their program delivery for the youth, giving them the support they need.
So part one of your, and I'm sorry to dominate this a little bit, part of your stewardship and your job is that you're also assisting in this program and so on. Mm-hmm. Tell me what would happen if the funding was not there, or funding if the appropriation was reduced by some amount, where the county was not fully funding that position of the 4-H coordinator.
Program coordinator?
I'm assuming that we might adjust, that we might have to realign where we're paying other programs, evaluate the needs, but I'm assuming that this probably would involve a little more work on the volunteers' points to keep a good quality program moving forward.
Absolutely. The role of the program coordinator is to maintain that communication and contact with the volunteers. In any volunteer program, the work that goes into maintaining volunteers, making sure they have the training they need, whether it's risk management training, whether it's program-specific training, in running the skills that the kids need, that would be impacted clearly, and not being able to give the volunteers the support they need, the resource support, curricular support that they need for the programs. So that would be directly impacted.
Thank you. For the record, I'm full support, always have been of the program, of all the wonderful work done by your volunteers. I see an end product at the fairs and so forth, and groups coming by looking for donations from my store and everything else. I'm all in support. My position is I'm looking, as we were on the Child Advocacy Center, with increases and where, at what point does the county get to a point that we shouldn't be subsidizing as fully as others. Overall, in my opinion, we should have a program. Are there questions of the folks gathered as far as the 4-H is concerned at this point by the subcommittee? Representative.
Thank you. This sounds like a lot of structural overall changes going on in this program, and having been following cooperative extension for quite a long time, and I've seen other changes too. Is this phase complete, or is this part of something that's going to be developing and changing over the next few years?
Great question. Can we answer? Yeah. It is complete in terms of the major changes that were put forward in this document, which was handed out to folks. And I do have copies, by the way, if folks want to have this document, which is our reorganization, a strategic reorganization that took place. And this was released in January a year ago. So it is complete in the structural changes, the financial changes that were implemented. What's not quite complete is we have completed our first, all these groups had to come together and create what's called a business plan. The business plan was put forward this late fall, early winter, and that's basically just about ready to come out the door in terms of implementing our full-out new business plan throughout the state. I use the term business plan loosely. It is more of a sort of how we're going to operate within each programmatic area. So that's coming forward, but it'll all be within the structure that's in place now. So a few changes yet to come that you'll see in terms of implementing the business plan, but structurally model is here to stay.
Can I follow up?
Please.
And so, the basic funding percentages and how much what percent you fund for which position or whether it's program or operations, as far as we know now, that's what you're planning on staying with for a while, or do you see any of that shifting?
That is what we plan on staying with, and it's if we put it into this document, I do have copies of that particular section if you'd like to reference to see. But it is what we're planning to stay with, and it's what we brought forward around to all of the counties over the previous year to make sure that folks were on board with it. So it has been implemented to date, and that's the plan that we are planning to go forward with.
One more follow-up.
Yeah.
And so when a change like this begins to, however it forments here, you say you bring it to the counties,
Yes.
and by that you mean you bring it to the staff, you bring it to the advisory boards. Who's making these decisions?
So we had multiple meetings, including with the commissioners here in this county. We brought it forward through, we had 3 public sessions around the state where it was sort of open to the public, entire public. We brought it forward to advisory council meetings, at least 1, in some cases 2 per county, to have discussions about it. And so, yeah, so it's primarily advisory council meetings, a general public session, and then the commissioners meeting here, I believe, was in August, this past August. So those were the parts of discussion that we had about implementing it in each county.
And I do, so I
Please
have
go right
one
ahead.
more. So if we decide that we as a county don't want to do whatever percentage has already been agreed upon, what happens then?
Well, it would basically have to be, we'd have to decide if it was reducing the overall budget. We'd have to decide strategically where within our budget we had to make cuts and reductions programmatically. I don't know that we would necessarily say, you know, this is a specific piece of our budget that you're cutting out, and therefore we can't do that specific programming. So if you were to say, we're only going to put in 25% for the 4-H program coordinator, I'm not going to tell you right now that Amanda Royce would be reduced in time because of that. We'd have to look strategically at the whole organization in the county and what we're doing to see where the cut would have to be made. So I don't know how else to answer it. I haven't really been faced with that situation yet, but I think that's what we do.
Further question, Richard?
No, I think
I'll allow you opportunity if you have something else. Thank you. Good questioning. Any other question? Yes, Representative Bucco.
I'd just like to comment that I do serve on the advisory board for this extension, and we were so, Klaus was the 4-H coordinator for 2 or 3 years, and he was doing such a fantastic job as far as increasing the number of members and especially the after-school programs. When they made this big change and they decided that they were going to, that the field specialists were going to be regional, that was going to take time away from our county for his specialty for 4-H. So that's why we hired this 4-H coordinator, because we wanted to make sure that the 4-H programs was stayed up, maintaining the same level of accomplishment that Klaus had worked on and brought them to in the past several years. So the advisory board was in favor of hiring this coordinator.
This wasn't a proposal that we brought forward to them. They decided they wanted to have a half-time coordinator.
Right, and and with the specialists, they shifted the percentage from the county to state and federal at 75%, and the overall budget is $5,000 less than last year's budget. So, just more of a comment than a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Booth. It's getting harder and harder to find people that haven't served on this advisory committee when we come to the meeting. Commissioner Babson. You wanted to comment?
Just one comment. You have in that materials you had requested to see how we changed over time. We did provide you with a change in our percentage funding and the overall funding. And I just wanted to make sure you know, for the record, that in 2009 the county was putting in $230,978, which represented 41% of the total budget. And over time that went up slightly, and then under the new re-extension model, it has come down. And so it's been reduced by about $5,000, and it represents about 37% now of the total budget spent on this program here. So it has reduced in terms of the overall percentage. Still.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Part of your new effort of aligning services, if I remember right from Ann's comment before, that bookkeeping has been gone back to Durham as opposed to being here. So that was what, one person or half a person or something that was being handled here?
Well, there was one of the administrative assistants was playing a larger role in that.
We have in the county been working on our adaptive reuse of the old county nursing home, and there's been a lot of discussion in the past of reoccupying that and what the need was for your organization to be there. As I've had the pleasure of being here over the course of 5 terms, I've seen a lessening of staffing, a lessening of support by the state. I guess my question is, it would seem to me that is your space that you're in now just became larger with more adequate where you are presently because a staffing member has been reduced, a function's been reduced? Do you see yourself in a position that the university would be supporting space, X number of space over a 20-year term at a guaranteed rate? Is that a discussion? I'm sure that's a discussion for another day, but do you have any comments on that? Are you happy where you are? Am I asking the wrong person?
Yeah, I don't know. Klaus might be a better person to answer that. But
I mean, as of now, that space is works. I've been there now for 4 years. That's certainly a functional space. Works for us. When this discussion was being had, we presented sort of pros and cons of both sites, and I can't recall the specifics on hand, but there were some benefits to being here. There's some benefits to being up there. There's a few drawbacks in either case. The space I know, and it works for me. So it's hard to compare to something I don't know. But it's effective space for us.
Yeah. Is that space now more space to be used with this person and this activity out of that office now?
Well, it's the same number of individuals in the office.
Okay.
So that's it. Except we had an administrative assistant, which we then lost, and then the program coordinator came in. So as far as people in the office and office space, it's the same. And so I just also wanted to emphasize that point that if we were to lose that program coordinator, that would be a staff loss and would have a pretty tremendous impact because that administrative assistant did spend a significant portion of their time administrating for the 4-H, and there are enrollment records and it's a fair amount of paperwork. So losing the program coordinator again on top of that administrative assistant, if that were to be the case, would be incredibly impactful on the program.
Okay. Thank you for your comment.
Sure.
Any other questions for the cooperative extension at this time? Nothing from the subcommittee. I'll come back if you've got a moment. Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, is the rent going to increase over the next few years?
I do not have the puzzle. I don't believe so. I can't recall.
Ann hasn't said it was going to. The figure that is in here is for this year that we're in, but I don't have any indication that it's going to increase, but, you know, it's up to the.
Seems like Representative McCarthy came up with some kind of agreement that it would not increase for the next
5 years.
5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Okay, all right. And do you know offhand what your square footage that you're occupying now is?
Approximately 3,000, but I can't say with any absolute certainty.
Thank you. Representative or Commissioner Babson, did you have a?
No, I just wanted to know that it's a 5-year. They've committed to, nothing signed, but they've committed to holding the price for 5 years.
Sounds good. On the rest of the budget for cooperative extension and moving from 4-H, are there any more questions on 4-H? Okay, hearing none. Are any of you aware of any changes up or down on any of the other line items for your appropriation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have for you, if you'd like, the initial budget that was submitted only had figures through September 30th of 2012 for actuals. I do have the year-end actuals, the second page of that budget, if I can get to you all.
Please.
And this is from the original budget that was submitted. The third column, which had 2012 actuals as of 9/30, to replace by year-end actuals, just so you can see where.
What is the figure?
From the original budget that was submitted, these that had actuals as of 9/30, 2012,
Yeah.
and now we have the year-end actuals, so we just are more current. And
That's what I was looking for.
yes,
So,
and
it says 227?
227, yes. So there's been a return to the county a few cents shy of $3,500, $34.99 and change.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With no further questions, thank you so much for coming out and safe travels home.
Thank you.
I think before we deliberate, I think we can move through the rest of the people here instead of holding this out, or would you like to deliberate at this point in time?
Well, I hope this doesn't take too long. I'll make a motion to approve the budget as requested at 225, 427.
We have a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. Motion made, seconded to, and I don't have in front of me, Representative, that is the commissioner's budget is that you're referring to, is that the number?
That would be the commissioner's budget.
Give me 1 second.
Which is 225, 437.
Okay, 22547.
427. 427.
Got it. So a motion made to accept the commissioner's budget of 225,427, made by Smith, seconded by Bucco. Any discussion before the vote? I'll just add that I will not be voting in favor of that. No further discussion? Okay, we will call the roll. I will call for the vote. All those in favor will be signified by saying yes. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Record will show 3 with the subcommittee chair in opposition. Thank you. Will, before we go to you, could I trouble you to bring forward the victim witness? We should be brief. And for the record, just reintroduce yourself, please.
I'm Melissa Smith. I'm the director of the Victim Witness Program with the County Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Melissa.
1 L and 2 S's?
What?
1 L and 2 S's?
1 L and 2 S's, correct.
I believe we are in agreement with everything up to the exception of reimbursement on phones. do you have a different recollection? And have you reached a decision on where you were on what you wanted to adjust that money to?
I thought we were in agreement on everything. My phone line item in my budget, I'm requesting a $300 increase to, and that's just because I went $300 over last year. It's a grant funded line item. The $1,200 comes from that victim witness grant that I get.
Okay.
So the additional $300 would come from the county unless I restructured how that grant money was spent. I have a little bit of flexibility with how that grant money gets allocated, not so much at this time of the year, but when it comes time to applying for the grant. The phone, I mean, I've thought about how to decrease the phone, and I absolutely, this phone, being mobile, has made my job, I think, much more effective. It's allowed access, people have access to me that need me, outside of the business hours. I've thought about how to lower my phone line, because since I do share an office with the county attorney, maybe just doing away with my landline, because most of my calls come in on either, most people just grab the letterhead and that has the county attorney's number on it. I do pay for a private voicemail box that frustrates me sometimes because I forget it's there, but so I thought about maybe getting rid of that in an effort to save money, but I think that we need to keep it. I think there are some people that need to leave me a message that is very personal, that is very private, that might not get left at the county attorney's message center.
Okay.
And I think it's a nice thing to afford those people that this is my voice on there and nobody else is going to hear it, and they need to tell me something horrific, they can leave it there and it's not going to be played for everybody to hear. So.
Okay. So, if I could then, are you saying to leave the telephone where it's at this point?
Yeah, the telephone initially has been $1,200 level funded for the last 10 years. I've asked for an additional $300 this year because that's what I spent last year.
Okay, so the victim witness grand total proposed by the commissioners or accepted by the commissioners is $108,847. which, if I'm following this correctly, includes, approved by the commissioners also, a $300 increase in the telephone line. So you're looking to be funded at the level the commissioners have recommended. Questions by the subcommittee? Okay.
No, I just think it's penny wise and pound foolish to, in your position, to nickel and dime it to death over the use of a telephone. So
Maybe next time. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia, for your time.
not that we're generally opposed to doing it.
No, I understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've heard from Melissa at Victim Witness. The commissioners have approved her proposal at $108,847. Is there any objection to that number? Are we in agreement on that?
Just make sure I got it right, 108,847?
Correct.
I'll make the motion to approve the,
Okay, moved by Smith, seconded by Bucco. Questions? All those in favor of that amount, 108,847, will signify by saying yes. Yes. Vote is unanimous. Thank you for your time, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're left with farm, and if you give me just 1 minute, take a break, I'll be right back and we'll get you going. Thank you.
especially salary.
It's in the salary for that secretary position. I didn't necessarily agree with that. much time did it take you to put all this stuff together?
Very good.
Quite a bit.
Sure, it's a little confusing on there, on lots of explanations, but I wanted to make sure I covered the questions that I was asked to get last time we met.
You know, the question you get to when you know what Albert or he was imagining, one of the questions is how they were motivated to, how did they determine the cost of the food and the dietary on the farm? You noticed it, one of the questions you get.
Will, one of the questions that came up at the other subcommittee, are you keeping track now of the time that you're putting in for each building?
Yes.
But you stopped a couple of weeks ago, right? Started again?
We stopped a couple months ago,
Yeah.
financially wise, and we started again this last month. I got January's numbers here that I can report on.
It looks to me like it's getting more important that you get it down fairly precisely. Mark was the one that was
It's a discussion that I guess
questioning it, and he's got a good point.
what we need to have is, it's easy for me to have the guys fill the paperwork out. It's easy for me to give a percentage like Representative asked. The problem that we're having is take all those hours and convert them into money, and to convert that into each individual thing that Kathy used to do. Apparently she doesn't have time to do that. I don't have time to sit and put everything into money. Tell you a percentage is pretty easy, to sit there and convert everything of who drove the backhoe, who drove the truck, who drove the lawnmower, the different charges for each hourly thing. That's when it gets confusing. It'll be there. I don't have time to do all
It's a
that.
record nightmare.
Can you accept the percentage hours in that?
I don't even know. I'm glad to see that we're tracking again. I think that's wonderful. I think we've got to get it. I think we need to come up with a mechanism so it's easy, so it doesn't take all of his time, and so that the number's a reality.
He's just actually doing it by percentages rather than the individual wages that have to be calculated out by Kathy. Is that acceptable to you? If he's got an 8-hour day and 4 of them being spent at the nursing home, that's 50% a day, or? I'd like to see the activity broken out.
Yes, we have the activity, but to give you, because those are on each sheet, but to give you a total, I just went through the month to say, because you asked what percentage is spent where.
I think for that exercise, that's perfectly fine.
Okay,
At
that's
the
what
end
I
of the
did.
year, we know that, maintenance was this, and farm was this, and that was that, yeah.
That's different than the
what I was
financial.
looking for.
To me, that's different. What he's asking for is different than the financial side of it, because he's asking for a number of hours of where your time is spent, not
Yeah.
how much money. So it's easy for me to do that part, but when we want to convert it into money, we got to either, someone's going to have to go back to doing that manually, or we're going to have to go to the system that we have changed and just take the amount of money that they have over there and divide it. I think quarterly she does her journal updates, and she just puts it in each quarter into our thing. Kind of like a contract would be for a general contractor.
I think it involves two things. I was looking for two different things. I was looking for one, what's the percentage of the farm's time, outdoor maintenance, that sort of thing. That's a chart. And the other is, we're seeing in all the, it's harder to get his number there, but we're seeing in all the different buildings, the nursing home and so forth, being charged $60,000 for what was $60,000 for. I think that needs to be specific. Snow plowing for X number. It was general mowing of the acreage. It was where it breaks down. Otherwise, you're just assigning pool of money, and we don't know if that's the right number. You may need more money to do that. Okay. Thank you. Last one of the day is Will, you're here with the farm as, I'm sorry, your title is superintendent, administrator, what's your title?
Farm superintendent.
Thank you.
And may I have the spelling of your last name?
D-E-W-I-T-T-E.
Thank you.
We had great discussion past about the cordwood operation, and I see you have brought in some further information on that. Do you want to explain what you've got here, Rob?
Yes, please. This sheet can be kind of confusing, so I'm going to try to go through it. I didn't know what format to put in and get all the information in there, but I basically have two columns. You have your left and your right. I've highlighted the right in the red color. Left color is what I would like to start with on the left side of the black. Right now, some of the questions that were asked is Representative Conti asked me to come up with the real numbers for everything, basically with the wood, and I tried to come up with just about as much all the way down as I could on this. So to start with, this year what we paid for wood is $1,450 per load, and when we cut, split, and stack that, it comes out to about 11 cords per load. So that gives you, I divided it by that, it gives you the cost per cord. That's where I got $131.81. Now the next line down, it says old processor. The labor, last meeting we talked about that. I gave you all a sheet breakdown. Representative Luco, I have that. At some point, I should grab that for you. Oh, here we go. So I just merely plugged those numbers in that we talked about last time. For that, per cord, we're talking about per cord all the way down here. That's $72. $20 per cord is, I put an average cost. The estimate, as you see, goes off. I said $5 per gallon of diesel fuel, which is a little high right now. 10 miles to the gallon, which is probably a little low on the mileage. You probably get a little bit better than that, but for easier math. And average 40 miles round trip, because generally we go 20 miles. If it's above 20 miles, we put a surcharge on the delivery. So that's where I got the 40 miles, 20 miles out, 20 miles back. Then they have $20 in miscellaneous. The miscellaneous covers the chainsaw gas, it covers the gas in the tractor to run the processor, covers the chains, any of those miscellaneous things to get the wood to where it becomes sellable. So that comes out to a total, if you add all those up, $243.81 per cord. We sell it for $275 a cord. So our net profit, it would be the $31.19 per cord. This is our old processor. We go down to the new processor, same format. We have less labor, which I explained on the other sheet. Same delivery costs, same miscellaneous costs. Comes out to $181.81 a cord. So our profit now at $275 a cord is $93.19. So basically almost tripled our profit. Largely due, obviously, to labor. That's the biggest cost in there that I tried to highlight last time we met. So, stopping right there, if we go over to the right-hand side now into the red, we're going to have this. I have the same format, but the difference is this represents on the right-hand side of taking lumber or taking cordwood off of our own property here at the county as we do cordwood cuts. Instead of paying basically $131 a cord. Here, we can have professionals come in, cut it, and leave it on the landing log length for $30 to $40 a cord. So I went with $30 a cord. It was the last time I was given a cost. It was a few years ago, so I'm saying it could be higher, but last time I was given a cost was $30 a cord to leave on the landing. So let's break out to the same ways I went down on those, just to give you a difference between if we buy our wood in and if we have it on the property, on what our costs are. Now if we go down to the campfire wood costs, back to your left-hand side, 3/4 of the way down the sheet, I talk about 150 bags per cord. A lot of times we get more than that, but 150 is easier number, and then guaranteed we generally always get 150. A lot of times it can even bump up to 170, but for discussion I left it at 150. It's $275 a bag. Comes out to $412 a cord. But that's how much we gross profit. Delivery charge, each cord, each delivery we go to for cordwood, there's about 3 cords of wood that's put into the truck, and we charge $75 for a fuel surcharge. So that comes out to roughly $20, or just over $20 per cord, because I'm trying to stay in a per cord basis here. So that's total profit off that at $432 per cord, 50 cents per cord going out in campfire wood. There are $40.50 is the cost for 150 bags. We have to buy the bag wood, the bags to put the wood in. Those are around 27 cents a piece. I said $11 is the cost for a part-time employee to supervise an inmate bagging crew. That's what we pay our part-time person. There's no benefits associated with our part-time person. And they should be able to bag a minimum 150, this scenario is built on, and it is a minimum of 150 bags a day. Lately I've been getting guys, the crew I have, doing 200 to 300 bags a day. So I'm basing this scenario off 150 a day. So with the old wood processor, our cost, if we went back up to the top, was $243.81 for that cord of wood. I brought that back down here. And now we subtract that from the $432. And our total profit per cord with the old processor buying in wood is $137.19. The red indicates, again, the red indicates with when we have wood off of our own property. Based on these numbers that I'm giving you right now, of all the costs broke down, if you flip to the second page, one of the questions Representative Schmidt asked is about payoff time, so I gave you some scenarios of investment. I think I recall the representative saying if we can have something that we invest in that pays itself off within less than 5 years, that's usually a pretty good business model. Based off of 2012 sales, we sold 81 cords of cordwood, 43 cords of campfire wood. We bought in that wood, so I brought in 81. This is our new processor, these scenarios. So 81 cords at times $93.19 is our pure profit off of those cords, which I told you on this other page. Comes out to $7,548.39. 43 cords of campfire wood times our $199.19 pure profit. On that comes out to $85.65.17. Total profit of $16,113.56. Divide that by the $65,000 which I asked for, and that's 4 years, 4.03 years of payback with buying our wood in. If we do our wood off of our own property, which we are, in matter of fact, Commissioner Babson and myself talked with the county forester the other day, and we're hoping to have a cut done this year on the property. These are the numbers in red that we're looking at. Basically comes out to 2.26 years that it would appear profit that would pay back off of our machine that we're asking for.
Thank you. Before I open up other questions, if the county goes to their own cut of trees, which is showing a higher profit here, who's going to cut those trees to start with? Is that county people?
No, we generally have a large lot that is all tallied and calculated by the county forester. Yep. She marks all the trees. And then it goes out to bid to the commissioners, and they decide what people are going to come in. For example, we did a cut a couple of years ago down by the Christian Academy on the other side of 28. Taylors and Sons came in and did the cut there. They were awarded the bid to do the cut. Same type of process here. And then when they do the cut, we'll tell them, I want 300 cords of log length firewood, certain dimensions. That's the other thing with our old processor. We can only take small wood. With this new processor, we can take larger wood. So we'll tell them our dimensions of our wood, how many cords we want left on the landing, and as they bring it out of the woods, they leave it on the landing for us.
In past years for the commissioners, if we had that cut and we didn't retain that wood for ourselves, did that show up in other years as an income from the trees farmed?
Yeah, I'm sure.
So it'll have somewhat of an offset because you won't have that farming income coming in from the tree cut.
Basically, a number of years ago, 8 years ago, is that the old wood processor?
More like 10 to
10 years, okay.
Or longer.
That cost us $18,000, and that came off a wood sale that was generated income to the county.
Okay.
That's how that
So if we start keeping that money in-house, my point is, one way or the other, it's costing us money.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, how do you think it's costing?
Yeah, that's my question.
If we go to cut, and my lots cut every 10 years. And I know there's higher production.
We have a plan.
That could be 5 years, whatever. So at present, before we kept our wood for our own personal use, they were cutting it and we were receiving a fee for them cutting our wood. So if they go...
That's still the case now. They pay us for what they don't leave here.
Yeah, but we're, instead of that money coming right into the coffers, we're using that for stock. So we're not making the same money.
We're not making it today, but if we go along with this, we're making it as soon as it's dried and cut and sold.
Also, to add to your conversation is, when they come in, they're not just cutting firewood for me, they're also cutting what's scheduled on there. So there's saw grade lumber that's coming out of there, and that money is what's offsetting the cost of having those people, and also brings in the profit that Commissioner Sorensen was talking about to the county.
Well, I understand that, but and we use that money 1 year to buy a wood processor.
Right.
I gotta believe there were years that we cut wood and took that money and showed, kept that $18,000 or whatever.
What do you mean, kept it?
Kept it. It was income for the farm.
Right, that's true.
$18,000.
We didn't cut it.
We took the
every year.
18,000.
We didn't cut every year.
No, we didn't cut every year.
I know there's 1 or 2 cuts in the last 10 years.
Yeah, right. We've been after this forester to mark it so we could get it cut, and finally, I guess she's done it, and hopefully we'll have a cut. But there's a plan, and I can't remember now how many years, every so often, every 5 years, there's a cut.
I understand.
There's a
Same
plan.
as mine or anyone
But it
else.
hasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. When you're out there, there's a couple things. When we looked at the number before, what was your projected? What was your gross income? Or what was your income last time we spoke? And what's that been adjusted to at this time? If we're using bought wood, which is what we were using before, wasn't it that you were taking in a gross profit of $20-something thousand?
Gross, we took in $40,000 in 2012.
Okay, so $40,000 is our number. Now, when you re-examine this, adding in some of your expenses, and we take off the money that we would make if it's our own wood, that's adjusted now to what, with some more expenses against it?
I guess if you did that, you'd have to take your 81 cords times your cost over here. I didn't break that out for you, but you'd have to take your 81 cords.
Well, I guess my point is, you saw a reduction in your profit when you started adding in these numbers, or did your numbers stay the same?
Well, yeah, your net profit's obviously going to, we got to take out our costs. I said 40,000 is our gross. I've said that all along, so when I take out the expenses, our net is going to be less. What that is, I
understand that, but the only thing expensed against your gross number, your 40,000 last time, was the cost of the wood that you paid to bring it in. Right? And then you came out with a bottom line that you were making, someone could help me with this, someone...
20,000.
20,000
profit.
Yep, profit. What I'm saying now is, when you run through your scenario, and you've taken out some of your costs associated with that, where is your number adjusted to? Is it 18,000 as opposed to 20? Is it the $16,000 number I'm seeing here, total profit 2012?
No, there wouldn't be that number because that's based off of a new machine. So it's not that number. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not following you to where you got the 20,000. If you have a piece of paper.
You didn't figure in last time the gas, the mileage, all that stuff. There was extra cost that Representative McConkey was saying didn't show the true profit.
Right.
And so you've done that in this case. You figured out all those figures, but you based it on a cord and not on the total gross.
Right, so if you wanted to know that total gross, you could take the 81 cords that we sold, because I did it per cord, and the total cost that I said was $243.81. So I don't have a calculator on me, but if we were to do $243.81 times 81, this is a cost. This is my cost for cordwood, and then we're going to take.
Is anyone following this number? Because I'd like to come up with a number.
Tom, you punching in the numbers?
81.
19,748.
Pretty close to 20.
So that was 243.81 times 81.
Yes. Is that,
Tell me again what number you multiplied by 81 boards.
$243.81 times 81.
Right, that's adding this number plus all these numbers to get our total
Cost
cost.
of the court, bringing
That
it
we bought.
in,
Yep, and then our labor,
plus labor, and,
plus delivery, plus the miscellaneous things
so this is cost.
per court.
Right.
And also, if you see this number right here, yep, that's what you have to buy.
Okay.
Because you take the cost of bringing the wood in, and our labor, and all those costs come up to that. And we did 81 boards last year.
He's talking about 81.
The representative wanted to know what our cost was, and that was our cost actually.
Why are we dealing with 81 cords and not 124?
Well, because I just went off the cordwood. Plus we did camper wood also, so you'd have to add that on.
So the number you came out, the net difference between where you were last time when you offered your number, 40 less 13, whatever, which brought you down somewhere in the neighborhood, $20,000, wasn't it $25,000 that you were speaking of?
About 20.
Okay, so $20,000, and so you've added in the expense of delivery.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I found the paper that you're talking about now.
Okay, where was your number there, Will?
I said this year we made $40,000 in revenue minus the $14,500 for the wood purchase, which gave us income of $25,500 to the county.
Thank you, that was the number, okay.
And that didn't include the labor and the gas that you're asking.
Okay, so now you've added the labor and the gas in, and that brings my number down further to what number?
The number Tom had.
It's really not a difficult, I apologize for holding you up for this, Commissioner, but the truth of the matter is there's a new number, and I'm asking for what that number is.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank you.
It's less than 20.
Yes.
And so we have just discussed what the net cost of 81 cords of wood was. Firewood, cordwood. But then we would also have a net, I said net cost, and I didn't mean that, I meant net profit. Then we would also have a net profit based on the firewood, campfire.
We're not going to reach that same number, because in the first scenario, I believe, the one you presented previous was for 100 cord of wood. Wasn't that the number I remember hearing, that we have historically sold 100 cord of wood, and we're going to continue to sell 100 cords of wood? Does that sound familiar, Representative Smith?
Yes.
Okay. So now these figures we're talking about are on 83 cords of cordwood. So again, I've got totally different metrics, don't I?
Good. Sorry, 81 cords of cordwood plus 43 cords of campfire wood. So Commissioner Batson was right. We're talking about 124 cords of wood here.
We're talking 124 cords of wood, but all of our discussion was based on 100 cord of wood.
And I said that is plus or minus generally from year to year. We went with 100 cords because it was easier math.
Okay. So at some point, if you could get back to me where that number falls from your scenario last time, which was the $40,000 less, which netted out, in your opinion, of $25,000 worth of profit. Apply your new model to it, and then get back to me with where that net cost falls on your scenario.
Okay.
It's a number some less than 25,000. You don't have to figure it right now. We'll move on to another discussion. But if you could just keep me in the same conversation, using the same relative numbers.
Questioning where we're going with all, I mean, I understand we want to get down to the bottom price, but at the end of the day, we're still bringing in money with the cordwood. So I'm just confused that every time I come to these meetings, you give me all this stuff to go research and find. I'm just wondering where we're going with what you're looking for. Because every time you want more and more and more, and I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what you're asking for, if it's possible.
Thank you. I I believe I understand your question. But when we start with the premise last week, or our last meeting, and you came up with a cost of $40,000, and you took out your number, which was what you were paying for cord length wood, and your answer from that was, we're making a profit of $25,000. Figuring on 100 cord, I believe, which is the number we were using for our scenario. I brought up the point that I didn't believe it was really $25,000, that you needed to factor in other costs that are associated with that. One being labor, one being fuel, another being saw blades and oils and that sort of thing. I asked you to consider the cost of the delivery of wood if we were making enough money for that. I asked you if we're using a backhoe in the process, that you considered that. That's what I'd asked for. What you came back with is a different scenario with that, and all I'm saying is I was looking for you to keep following the matrix you were working on, factor those in, and then be able to say to me, Representative, it wasn't $25,000. We actually made $27,000. A representative, under that scenario, we only made $21,000. I don't know what the answer is from what you presented. I appreciate the exercise you've gone to. I believe everything you've given me here, but I still haven't gotten to my position as to what that number is. That's what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to pull that together right now. You can choose whether to do it or not to do it. That's yours. I'm just asking so that when I look at a set of numbers, I'm looking at the same thing. So all my numbers would be the same starting out, but are there more expenses credited against that gross profit, which brings me to a net number? That's what I was looking for. Commissioner.
Is there anything that we'll put together here that you feel that he's missing in his calculation?
I mean, I could answer that question very easily if we could just calculate the $243.81 times 124 cords, because that was our total that Representative Babson. That'll be our total expense, and we can subtract that from 40,000, and I could definitely have your answer just that quick, please.
Go ahead. But the basis we used last time was 100 cord.
But times 124 cords.
I don't always remember correctly, but if I remember right, we were just using that as a round number to help us to do the math fast.
Right, I'm giving you the actual what we sold in 2012, so I'm trying to be a little more accurate.
Sounds good.
So now can we subtract that from 40,000?
40,000?
Yes, sir. Just shy of 10,000?
9,767.
So that number comes out, the expenses for that amount was $30,223.44, based on all these things that I've given you.
Could you repeat the number for me one more time?
Yes, ma'am. $30,232.44.
Thank you.
That comes out of, for a profit then, if we subtract the 40,000 that we made for gross, that was our expenditures, based on these sheets that I just presented, comes out to $9,767.58.
So,
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so, wood production last year, after we paid down using what we've taken out here, and thank you so much for going through that time and coming out. The position the farm had at the last meeting was that $40,000 worth of expense was making us $25,000. Now, after we've gone through this exercise, we're seeing that $40,000 worth of expense has made us just shy of $10,000, $9,767. Am I correct on that?
If you say,
That's the
that's the number come out to, yes, sir. I think,
Okay,
I kind of disagree with it, but I would say that is the numbers. I mean, the math-wise, I agree with.
So my point that led this whole discussion was, if you're doing a payback on a $65,000 piece of machinery, you can't expense $20,000 worth of profit. You need to be using somewhere in this, which I believe my scenario was in the beginning, that we're probably going to be making about $10,000.
But to go along with what you're saying there, sir, is that we're talking, these numbers are off our old processor. When I just laid out to you, our new processor is 3 times more efficient, 3 times the amount of money we're making. So that's not to say we can only take $10,000 a year to do that.
I can appreciate that. Now we're talking about a new machine. Okay?
Right.
No problem with that. Represent.
Well, before we move on to the new machine, was the 19,748 that we figured earlier for profit on 81 cords of cordwood, wouldn't we add to that the 9,000 something dollars of profit on the campfire wood? So that would be roughly $28,000 profit?
Going forward with the new machine under their scenario.
Is that new machine?
Wrong or right? The $40,000 expense is from 2011 or 2012? 2012.
The $40,000 revenue is
Revenue.
2012's revenue for everything, both cordwood and campfire wood combined.
So out of the $40,000 worth of revenue, when you take the expenses out, they're showing in what we've broken down at this point, a profit of $9,767.
It doesn't make sense.
I don't think
It
that's right.
doesn't make, I don't think it makes, I know the math, when you do the math it does, but also I'm making a lot of assumptions on it.
Do you see anything wrong?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to, what Representative Tyser was asking about the $19,000 figure, that was supposed to be cost. As what I understand, it was $243 per cord times 81 cords was the cost to produce that 81 cords. Is that not correct? I thought that's what...
I think so.
You're right.
I think you're right, sir.
I just wanted to correct that.
Can you say that again, Tom, please?
Will said that on this first sheet with the 2 columns, if you add the cost per cord for bought-in wood, plus the labor and the delivery and the miscellaneous, the total cost was $243.81. And produced 81 cords, so that total was $19,748.
Okay, and so the...
That's cost, right?
Right.
Yeah,
With the old-
that's another-
That's with the old one.
And that's bringing in the wood, right?
Right, buying in the wood and using the old processor.
No. What was the income on that? 81 cords.
I don't see revenues on this sheet, so.
So that would be the next column. Then he's got a cord profit of 3119, so you got how many cords over? 120?
If you want the profit off that, at that scenario, you'd say 81 cords times 3119, yes, sir.
81 times.
3119.
And that's 2,526.
Again?
$2,526. I don't see where that number comes from, so 3119.
Oh, because we sell our cordwood for $275 a cord. So I subtracted the $243 from $275. And that's where I got the $31.19.
Well, we don't want to continue that operation. I mean, we're spending $20,000 to make 2.
I think we need to refigure this.
And I certainly would appreciate it if you could put this in a format that when you went to the bank to buy that piece of machinery, that you'd have your numbers and the column would signal out. I apologize.
The other thing that makes it...
You're not getting that.
I think you got a lot of information here, but it's not really what we're looking for.
I guess
And
that,
Yes.
if I may ask a question about, if we were to buy this new processor, well, can this thing run all year? Can we, and can we stop buying in the wood and just use wood that we have on our property? We have 800 acres here.
Right. That's,
If we could do this continuously, then it would pay off this machine, but I don't know what the operation is.
We had, that was my point on the first go-around, how much, I had visions of making a lot of money on this, but we don't use it that much, right? Basically, if we're cutting 124 cords now, we're going to be doing 124 cords with the new machine also. We're not going to do any more.
we might do a little more in the campfire wood business because we're hopefully taking on another campground this year. But, so that'll increase a little bit, but I can't tell you exactly how many cords.
But to get to Representative Bucco's point and the one that I had made earlier here, the efficiency of the machine, because of our lack of use of the machine, we will never realize it in terms of money. Because we're just not, we're not, if we could cut 1,000 cords of wood, which the machine obviously could do quite easily if we had the stock to feed it and sell it,
right.
We'd be doing great, but we're not. We're going to have our same original stock number, which is 124 cords. The only thing we're going to get out of this is we're going to cut it a lot faster, and with a little bit of just less labor or whatever. And these are just issues that we really need to discuss, because it's a big dollar expenditure.
If I could move on, and also during your scenario looking through here, when you look at the cost of what it's costing to produce cordwood, which a lot of people do in the county, private businesses, and then when you take me to the side that produces specialty item, which is campwood, which a lot of people are not doing in this area, the amount of profit that I'm seeing on the campfire wood very well might be where we should be concentrating our time as opposed to the cord. Another point I want to get at, which Representative Bucco was brought up before, in a scenario we saw that we could process, if we were going to do 120 cord, we were going to stay at the machine, we were going to process it with the old machine, what was it, a couple weeks time, and if we brought in the new machine, we could bang that out in 5 or 6 days. But what we learned during the discussion was that even though the machine can put out to that period of time, there's amount of movement that has to happen to keep things stacked and piled and moved and so forth. So reducing their amount of time that they provide for wood operation, which is typically 3 months out of the year, off and on, they're not going to speed that process up any.
Also, included in that 81 cords that we're talking about, 3/4 of that, I would say, is to cap fuel assistance people. There's not very many fuel assistance people, vendors. There are a few, but there's not very many fuel assistance vendors in our county. So that a lot of our cordwood that goes to, because I haven't tried to expand the cordwood business, because obviously you look at the numbers, I agree with you, sir, is that our more profit is made in our campfire wood business. That's what I've concentrated with the commissioner since I've been here. But we still provide cordwood because there's a large percentage of those cordwood customers are cap customers. And I just feel that, if we want to get all out of the business altogether, fine, but if we have the opportunity to provide to those people that need fuel assistance, it's another vendor that can do that.
I appreciate your point, but I might suggest that if the county wasn't in the cordwood business, that someone else would be in the cordwood business. And that I don't believe that the county is I would hope you're not making any less money per cord when you're selling it to cap than you are to the customer coming down the road. So to be a benefit purely for the fact of Tri-County cap for that is not, from a business perspective view, a great selling point to me. So, thank you for putting this together. But I'd also just touch on one more thing, and I'm not looking you to research this, but in your time, when I'm processing wood, whether it be cord wood or whatever, and you told us that we can't continuously put the men out there for 5 days for the new machine, doesn't the machine have to move? Doesn't the wood have to sit somewhere? Is the wood ready and seasoned at that point so that it's ready to go out the door, or does it go into piles? Is the wood moved again from the time it's split and dropped on the ground, where the guy's standing there with bags ready to throw it into a bag, and then the bag goes to its final place. Is the bag moved again, whether it's inside, under a shed? Is everything happening in one process? It comes down, it goes in the truck, and it's ready to go. I suggest that we may have to handle that stuff a couple more times.
We do, and that's one of the, especially with the bag wood, that's the whole reason behind the pole barn, is to have it one operation so it doesn't have to be handled so many times, because we're handling it way too many times. Right now, when it's processed, it goes from a log length. We're handling it way many times with this old processor. It's cut into 4-foot pieces. The 4-foot pieces are put onto a conveyor. It goes through the machine, comes out at 16 inches, split, goes up a conveyor, drops into the truck. Truck takes it over, dumps it. The inmates pick it up, stack it. Then when the customer calls, and it's seasoned after a year of sitting there, the customer calls, we go out, we take it off the stack, put it in the truck and deliver. If it's campfire wood, it goes from that stack back into the truck, from that truck back to another barn, dumped out, put on a table to be bagged. Once the bags are bagged, put into another truck, taken to a barn to store, come out of that barn, put into another truck to take to the campfire wood. So that's the process, so you're right.
In your scenario that you just told me, have you accounted for the labor for all those times that it's touched? I suggest we haven't.
No, I've only,
I understand, you've accounted.
on a per core basis is all is what I gave you.
But you would agree that we're touching that with more labor, more time, so our number is even a lesser number.
Mostly inmates, right, are stacking.
Yes, it makes it doing all that. That's the other thing that was brought up at the other meeting, if we remember, is that however we want to make all these numbers, at the end of the day, we are making something for the county that we're being productive with. And we're also putting the inmates to work and teaching them a work ethic out there that I think has value that I can't put into these numbers for you. So I think that's something important to also consider in your decisions, is that, yes, there is some numbers here, but at the end of the day, we're making some money that helps offset other costs of the county.
I fully understand, I
And
appreciate the point. But when our able guests are out there gathering wood and bagging and moving from one season pile to the next season pile, are they out there by themselves? You turn them loose, they go bag, they do whatever they want outside the confines, or is there some personnel, whether it be a farm person or someone else with them?
There's always a farm person with them.
Cost.
That's what, exactly, that's why I put it in there for the bagging too.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move beyond this. Thank you.
Also, sorry, one more thing about the processor, if I could, is that, I've mentioned it before, is this one we have is on its last leg. So if we're not going to look at getting one at sometime in the very near future, we have no backup. So that means all the campgrounds that are depending on us for bagging wood, all the customers, we're going to just be flat out with at the end of the day, we're not going to have a wood business if we don't consider some kind of an option. I'm not saying it has to be the option I suggested, if we come up with another option, but we have to come up with an option, or we're not going to have anything to do, and the phone's going to be ringing.
Thank you, I understand that. How much product do you have ready for delivery this year? From what, sitting in your piles, ready to go? How much firewood do you have ready to go?
Less than 3,000 bags for campfire wood.
Okay. Your orders for this coming summer are at what?
Generally 7,000 to 8,000, and that's not taking on the new one. We're taking on a new one hopefully this year.
Okay, so you've processed your wood now for the camp season coming up.
Not all of it, but most of it.
Well, we're into February. We haven't processed our wood yet.
Not all of it.
Okay, so what you have on hand to fill your orders, do you have enough to fill half your orders or all of your orders?
My orders are between 7,000 to 8,000. I have about 3,000 on hand.
Okay, so, but you have the wood available to do it. You just don't have it put into a product so you can deliver it
Right.
yet.
The wood's log linked out there. It's not cut, split, stacked, and bagged yet.
Okay, so when you anticipate you're going to do that work, you've got 2/3 of your wood to bag at this point?
Yep.
Okay.
End of February, March, and into April is our time when we do most of all of our bagging. So we've already started doing that. That's why we're up to 3,000 now, almost 3,000. And as the days get warmer, that's when I send the guys out to work.
Okay. So they're gonna complete your orders. So you have enough wood available that you'd be able to fill your orders for this summer with the exception of possibly this new contract you might get?
There's wood available even with the new contract, but it's in log link form. So to get it to the bag form, if the processor went down, that's where I'm saying we don't have a backup to get it from log link form into the bag.
So how many, when we spoke last time, we talked about the months of September, October, November. In that's the time that you're processing wood.
Yes, sir.
3 months' time. So now on top of 3 months' time at the farm, now we're spending January, February, March bagging material?
Right. Well, we process it, get it into wood form generally in the fall, then we were bagging it in the wintertime. That's the purpose of building the pole barn, having it all in one building, out of the weather, to bag it. This year, we processed a lot of wood, we sold a lot of wood, and a lot of that is cap wood. Tomorrow I just had to go dig out 2 feet of snow to get to the wood because there's an emergency cap order that needs to go out tomorrow. Had a lot of emergency cap orders this year. So a lot of our stock that was supposed to be for bagging wood has been being sold as emergency cap wood, so I have to reprocess more to get to the bag.
I would purely on a businessman's point of view, if I've got material out there that's designated at $239 a cord versus $120 a cord, I'd make a decision that I'm not going to sell it for the lesser amount and keep my wood going. You know, it's a philosophy, and I know we don't share the same philosophy. The point I'm getting at is, so we're playing with wood in one form or the other for almost 6 months out of the year. To make the profit that we're showing is somewhere between $2,000 and $9,000 with what we've got out there. I suggest we're doing it.
Well, and it's not 6 months of the year as our full-time job. This is hit or miss stuff, but I guess I'm just lost for words because I don't know what else to say. I mean, we don't do this all day, every single day, and can have it all done in 5 days. It's a come and miss, a hit or miss. We spend time
I understand
doing many other jobs.
I go back to Representative Smith's point that a brand new machine isn't really going to do much for you. Have you investigated other alternatives for machines, a lesser machine that would work for you that was asked by the representative?
I did ask it was asked of the next model down, and I did call them. It's about $5,000 difference, so we could save $5,000 to go down to the next machine if we want to give up this whole, American-made machine and we want to go to something else. Then I would have to restart my research on it. It's just at some point, I haven't been given direction of where the delegation wants me to go with this machine, so I have to pick a machine that I think would do the best job for the most efficient, and that's what I've done.
That's perfectly fine. Your direction should come from the commissioners what the wish is. We're looking at yours.
I disagree with that, Mr. Chairman. You people are in charge of the budget. We can tell them to go buy the $65,000 machine or $165,000. You people set the amount of money. You've got to give us the guidelines what you want us to tell him to do. You're in charge of the budget.
Okay. Let me put it to the subcommittee at this point. Does the subcommittee feel at this point in time, after numerous conversations, that it is in the best interest of the county to purchase a $65,000 wood processor, which is a budget line item? I will put forward that it is not, that I do not approve a $65,000 expenditure. Is there a second to the motion?
Could you repeat the motion for me, please?
Or would you like to keep it a more general discussion at this point in time?
I have some more general comments, I think.
Okay. So let's open for discussion with the subcommittee on the viability of authorizing $65,000 to purchase a new wood processor.
You have your motion on the floor.
I'll remove my motion for the discussion. Yes, representation.
From the get-go, I was concerned really over the price of the machine and the use of the machine. Because what I heard in actual work days, this machine is going to be used 21 days a year.
It was very minimal.
I mean, it's just, if we were running a factory and we were gonna buy a piece of capital equipment and we're gonna run it 240 days a year, boy, there's a whole new calculation on that. This is where I'm really hung up on this, because frankly, the profit margins just will never justify that type of expenditure, no matter how you slice it. And, you know, so from that perspective, I would agree with our chairman here. In good faith, I could not vote for that type of capital expenditure for that type of use. I think we need just more work to be done here. I mean, I'd like to explore alternatives, or is there cheaper equipment? We had talked about bringing in equipment. I don't know if you ever researched it in terms of if I'm only going to run a machine 20 days a year, can I lease it? Can I bring it in as I mentioned earlier, like a farmer rents a combine to do his wheat fields. He doesn't own that piece of equipment. Is that a feasibility for the amount of work days that we would actually use this piece of equipment? Might there be a way, if you're going to bring in a deforester and whoever you're bringing in to cut, do they not own that piece of machinery? In other words, instead of maybe on a new piece of equipment where you're forecasting a $93 quart profit, even bringing it in, but if it's their piece of equipment and we knock it down to a $50 or $60 profit, that seems like a win to me without that type of capital expenditure. So those are the type of things I would like to really have explored. I'm reluctant at the moment to say, give you a definite, let's not go there, vote. But I think you ought to know that, at least I'll speak for myself. I mean, I'm not going to vote for that amount of capital expenditure based on what I'm hearing.
Further subcommittee members? Please, Representative Bucco.
I don't disagree with what Representative Schmidt just said. I just don't. If this looks like to buy this type of a machine, and it needs to run all the time, or it needs to be a full-time operation. I guess I would like to get more information as far as restructuring, how we can, if there's a way to lease it, or if there's a way to, I don't know. I don't know, I'm stuck in this.
Is it fair to say, Representative, that you would not be in favor at present of appropriating $65,000 for a new wood processor?
Well, and as Representative Schmidt mentioned, he said it too, and I mean, I'm not ready to vote on this today, I guess.
Okay.
If you can bring in some more information to show that.
Representative Tyson?
I don't know.
Thank you, Representative.
I'm in agreement with Representative Bucco and Schmidt about that, but I feel that I'm not ready to vote on this at this point because I think we need more information. We need to clarify a little bit what's been given to me, and I think we really need to look at alternatives, and I think we need to look at it in the light of what is the business of the county, what are our goals, what is our purpose here.
Thank you, Representative. Very good point. Thank you. Commissioner Babson, so I think we've come as close as we can for your answer.
Give us a chance to go over these figures and come up with something that you're looking for. The plan for the county 800 acres is to harvest 130 cords a year. That would sustain us on that 800 acres, so by the time we get all the way around, it's ready to be cutting it. That was the plan. How many cords do we buy in?
That we buy in?
Yeah.
Right around 100, a little over 100.
We buy in 100 cords. So if we harvest 100 cords, now we're talking about 200 cords of wood to process.
About 110 last year. 10 loads, and you get 11 per load, so
Okay.
110 cords.
Okay. Give us a chance to come back with some better figures. You've done a lot of work, but it's not in what you're looking for.
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, what I also would be interested in, if we're looking at the possibility of having them cutting every year for 120 or 140 cords of wood, is that feasible?
I'm not sure about every year. I'd have to go back and look at the plan. You know, it's a sustainable thing that was set up.
Well, then I would then like to see the analysis of what our revenue stream would be for just having someone come in and cut and take it as opposed to here. You know, if there's not much difference, then the question you have to ask yourself, you know, why are we doing this? Is there not maybe better use for our farm or a better what? You know, these are just basic economic issues I think we need to talk about.
I'll come back to you in a second, Representative.
I'm just wondering, I don't know who to address this question to, except I know all questions are supposed to go through you.
Thank you.
But I'm wondering what the consequences would be if we decided not to purchase a new wood processor this year, but to spend the year studying it. And I know we would have to hold our breath and make sure that, no, not make sure because we can't, but there would be two alternatives. One would be if the old processor held up and one would be if it didn't. So I guess my question boils down to, would there be dire consequences of taking, of not buying this year and taking some time to study it and plan?
Thank you. Before I open that out to the commissioners, I would suggest this. Apparently, we have enough wood on the campus right now to fill our cordwood need, our firewood need. There's still more work that needs to be done. It still may need some processing. There's no more expense on that side. So I would think it'd be prudent for the commissioners and or the farm to come up with a number using the machinery they have to limp themselves through the rest of this year. At the same token, I would think that they would concentrate on firewood as opposed to filling emergency orders for Tri-County caps wood, because there is wood out there that can be purchased. It doesn't involve us digging through 2 feet of snow to get to that wood. There's an efficiency of how we handle things, so I would hope they could do that. So I don't personally think that we would be limiting them. I think they can finish their orders and they'll come up with a cost to do that if we were to ask for more time. I don't think they're going to be able to pull this together in a matter of 2 weeks for us. And I agree that it deserves a notice. Commissioner, do you have more to add to it than that? No, I'm sorry, you've been trying to answer. Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to ask, along with Commissioner Sorensen, what he asked, is because I think that the form I put it in is probably confusing because we're talking about only making $2,000 off of the wood that we made this year and saying it's going to take forever to pay off the new processor, but I have the scenarios here of that, and we're talking about 2 different processors when we're talking about how long it's going to take us to pay off the new one versus how much profit we made with the old one. So I know that it's probably my fault how this is confused, so I just asked with Commissioner Sorensen that we get more time to try to make it less confusing, because I think we're confusing the old processor with the payoff of the new processor, not the production of what's coming off of the new processor. That, and the second thing I wanted to ask or add is, we're talking about limping the machine along and this and that. I'm now on my this is at least the second, if not the 3rd year that I've been here asking for a new machine, and I keep limping it along, and we keep kicking the can down the road about a machine. Last year we put some money aside. We put $9,500 aside to invest into the new machine that we were hopefully going to get this year. If we aren't able to convince some type of a new machine, then we're going to have to either put that money again down the road or figure something out. But I can only make it keep going down the road for so long, and I'm just saying this is my 2nd to 3rd time asking for this machine because I foresee a problem. Last time I got criticized when I asked for a machine because it was something I needed on the complex and we had to wait until it was a rust heap out here. Then it was my fault for not asking in a timely manner. So just reminding that this is the 2nd, at least the 2nd, if not the 3rd year that I'm asking for a machine as you deliberate on what we need to bring back. Please keep that in mind also.
Thank you. Commissioner.
You know, another possibility, Representative, would be somehow the delegation set aside $30,000 or $35,000 or $25,000, whatever it might be, should a good second-hand piece of machinery become available. The problem is we never have the money available farm equipment doesn't stay up for sale very long. If it comes up for sale and you have to tell the guy, well, we gotta wait till next March before we can tell you whether we're gonna buy it, you obviously are gonna sit on it. On the other hand, if we've got and almost a capital reserve fund, except we don't have enough money in the capital reserve fund to do anything. We have slush fund, call it whatever you want, so that if one came available, I can't believe there aren't people going out of this business now and then, that the machinery becomes available.
Thank you,
An opportunity to
Commissioner.
buy it.
I would suggest that we come down to the same problem as far as the delegation is concerned. Let's get your numbers for what our income level is, what our costs are, down to a simple profit and loss statement. Here's what it's costing, right? Kathy Gary certainly could get you to that. I would fully have expected to have any conversation for a $65,000 machine that the commissioners would have already vetted this whole process so that you could sit here with certainty and say to this non-astute commissioner or delegation member what the numbers are. You're sitting here with pieces of paper everywhere.
Was that an insult?
When you was just to this representative. Because apparently I get a look that I've got 4 heads at one time when I'm just trying to drive to a profit and loss statement. So when you get your numbers together, we'll be able to move forward. Are we done with firewood at this point in
I
time?
have one question.
Yes, Representative.
How much do we actually get to sell a bag of camp wood for?
Currently, it's $2.75 a bag.
Okay. That's what you get for it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It's, towards the bottom, it says 150 bags at $2.75 a bag. I think just below the
I didn't see that, but I thought that was the cost.
No, that's what we
Just
sell
to
it for.
understand
That's
where
what-
we're
that's what we
going
sell it
now,
for.
are
Per bag.
we,
Okay, thank you.
are we asking the commissioners to work with Mr. DeWitt on
That's right. That's all.
Simplifying it.
a better, on a phase 2 or phase 5 presentation?
I believe so. I don't believe the subcommittee has the will to approve a $65,000 machine without further information, which is what I've heard. So we've asked them to come up with a detailed financial statement as to what the real cost is of wood processing. It doesn't make sense to be doing bulk products or maybe one product. What would it take to get them through this season? Because they're not going to start processing wood until next September, October next year anyways.
Well,
And you have $9,000 something in reserve account right now. And perhaps you could be using that money towards repairs and whatever. Okay. There was a question earlier. Let's just run through here. Salaries is all the same number of personnel that you've had previously?
yes, sir.
Okay, so there's no changes on that side other than normal adjustments and so forth.
Are you on the farm budget, sir? Sorry.
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you.
I'm on page 17. And overtime, actual dollars from 3,400. We haven't taken the time to run through your budget prior to this, have we, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. So 2012 actual dollars was 3,484. And you budget commissioners is at 5,000. You've requested apparently 5,800. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. That's the same number we've had.
So your increase in overtime is for what reason?
I've budgeted $5,800 since the year I started here, sir. We
Okay.
just don't use that much. It depends on the snowstorm, the reason why. If we don't use it like we didn't last year, then it goes back. If we have several weekends like we did this weekend, we would be well over that 58.
Sounds good. Where are you to this point right now? Are you still back closer to that $3,500 figure as opposed to a $5,000 figure?
I don't know exactly, but I would agree with that, sir, right at this point, because we've had a fairly mild January.
Okay. Could I ask the commissioners why we've seen expenses 42, 37, back 42 was a good snow winter a couple years ago, less. why the commissioners were looking for $5,000 over $3,500 spent last year.
We decreased it $800 to bring it down more in line.
I understand
cut
that,
it
but
13%.
the most you've adopted, or what I've seen spent in past years, was $4,200, $3,700. The request may have been at $5,800, which Will has said is pretty much his standard number, and you're at $5,000 more. Isn't that more than where you were in past years?
2009, it was $5,293. Depends on the year.
Also,
Okay, I don't have 2009.
also, sir,
Yeah.
remember when you're talking about 2009 and 2010, you're talking about way less amount of pavement here. We've now added this new nursing home, which requires a ton of pushing snowbanks back and a lot more pavement. So those numbers on the high side are old nursing home. We have a year like those years where it would be really high. Just wanted to let you know about that.
Salaries, I'm assuming there's some step pays there, or
40 cents?
40 cents, thank you. So Social Security, medical insurance, retirement, workman's comp, unemployment, dental insurance, Medicare, all of those are adjusted using that salary.
Yep.
Okay. And supplies and services, I'm down to 29. Seem to be pretty much in line with where you've been. Office supplies, dues and licenses, I like your uniform expense. Gasoline. Will that increase from the 6,000, well, actually you had one year at 8,000, 4,000. Are you figuring in more gas for plowing? Is that what that's all about? Or in a higher number for a product?
To be honest, I haven't changed that number in 3 years. We had, when gas went up significantly a few years ago, actually before I started, the commissioners had went up to those numbers. I've left it the same because we've always been within it. But I would say that, I know it shows less, but we do have more plowing in the area to do now, so it might, that's why I stuck with those same numbers.
Thank you. Is there, Commissioner, is there a gallon breakout of that? Or just always,
Yeah,
always
we have the
been a
gas.
number?
We have the gas delivered to our own tank.
Right, we have the gas, and also, sorry to add one more to the gas in particular is, when the gas comes to our tank, we pay the initial amount that comes out of the farm, but the jail and the maintenance out of the nursing home come and use our gas, so we have to pay for it up front before we get credited back to that line item.
We show up on the revenue then.
Sounds good. I pay for gas the same way.
Right.
Telephone,
We decreased it.
Diesel fuel, Chairman.
diesel fuel, I figured was going to be the same argument. Do you have anything else to add on diesel fuel?
Oh, no, sir, I think that's, unless I'm missing something, but I think I agree with you, it's the same argument from it.
Telephone, are you or your guys, are we paying for cell phones like the commissioner, like the attorney and so forth?
Yes, each one of us have a, this telephone also has mixed into the 4 budgets, but we have our telephones for the office and the SCADA system for the water system, and then we also have 4 cell phones because we have to have communication with the jail when we have them, and I'm on 24/7 on call.
Okay, so cell phones are your primary source of telephone? Is there still a need to have, I have on record the old telephone for the farm.
Yes.
Is there really still a need to have that farm number and an answering machine and all of that?
Yes, sir. It's used by all the customers. And a lot of water customers call that number. When you have emergencies, they often call that number.
Okay. Vehicle lease reduced to $1. Seeds, basically in line with what you've had previously. Is fertilizer my next item here at 7,000, 7,500, up by the commissioners? Am I on the right line there?
Yes, sir.
And commissioners have increased you by $500. Reason for the increase by the commissioners?
Cost of fertilizer going up.
Questions?
Mr. Babson, can you testify to that?
We certainly can. Representative McConkey ought to be able to testify to that too, himself from the farm up his garage.
Not fertilizer.
Also,
Well,
sir,
diesel.
on that, sir, I was actually the one that asked, and they agreed with me. And the reason I gave them is, you noticed I spent $6,700 instead of the whole $7,000 because of the price per ton. I'd go over the $7,000 if I bought another ton. So I asked to increase it by that amount so I can actually get that extra ton.
Okay, that's fine. Building repairs and maintenance. What sort of items would you have in there for?
Building repair and maintenance, generally that is used, fix roofs out on the barns, paint, any electrical stuff I have go wrong, any, the furnace, things of that nature in our building that we need to call in to have fixed if something goes wrong. That's generally what it's used for.
In actual dollars in 2012, it was only $131.
I don't think that is right. Well, I know it's not right. I'm not sure how the ladies down at the office got that on there, but that's not right. I used pretty close to 2,500.
I would think so. Repairs at, you had asked for 5,000, it's at 5,800. Commissioner's reason for increasing that?
You had a
Repairs
radiator?
in the past were $3,000, $4,000.
Yes. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's generally, you just said Commissioner, so I don't want to say that. Generally, it's around $4,000 to $5,000. I try to leave in there in case we have an emergency with a piece of equipment. This year, a reason why I bumped it up to $800 is because I have a radiator that has to go out. Hopefully, if we get a break in this week or next week, I can send that out. If it's going to be less, I would definitely come back to the commissioners and subcommittee and say we could lower that back down. I just put that extra $800 in there to hopefully cover the rebuild on the radiator.
The radiators for what machine? Or
One of the tractors for the 2520.
If subcommittee has questions, just please chime in as we're going through this. Insurance is liability, is that what that is? Or is that insurance on people?
Liability.
And the business office is someone that has given us that number to put in
Okay. New equipment on the 3,500, I think we already discussed that. That's new shovels that break and that sort of thing. And
No, sir.
that was the list you gave us previous?
No, sir, that's for a different budget. That's for maintenance budget.
Okay, I'm sorry. What do you have on this one?
We budgeted last year $3,500. That was to buy the new bagging system for our new lawnmower. That is coming very handy. This year I put in $10,500, which was supposed to be part of the whole wood processor deal.
Yeah.
And the commissioners, we talked about and decided to move that all over to the capital expense. So there's no, right now our only major need is a wood processor, so I don't have anything else in new equipment.
Okay, so you reduced that down to the dollar.
Yes, sir.
Okay. IT, $50. That's, every department should look to be there. Purchase and resale. Help me out with that one.
Yes, sir. Normally we do $15,000 as you saw for last year, but we're slowly, the amount of wood that we can buy for that amount of money, and the amount of money, the increase in the amount of wood we're selling, we're having a shortfall. So I asked to be able to get enough to get an extra 2 loads. That's the other 12, about $2,400 right in that area.
So it's your cordwood that you purchased?
Yes, sir.
And the operating budget is 0 with no increases.
Okay. So that takes us completely through the farm. Does anyone on the committee have any questions of Will on the farm side of things?
No, pretty flat budget.
The income, revenues, farm, page 2, I'm working off the sheets here from 12/10/2012. Everyone together here? Okay, sale of produce in 2012 was $1,500.
No.
Come on.
Sorry, that's incomplete. She hasn't finished the journal entry on that.
Where do you think you're going to be, Will?
We're a little over 4,000.
Okay. And you had a bad growing year?
Yes. We predicted to make at least 35. We made 4. It's a lot less than previous years, I understand, because we did have a rough year out there in the garden.
Okay. Sale of hay projected to be 35,000. Some years you've had 38, 34. Is my hay number complete here at 29,000?
No, we should be around 31,000, which is shorter than 35. But we also have 600 to 800 bales sitting in the barn that's first cut hay, and usually we're all out of first cut hay before the end of the year. This year it didn't sell before the end of the year, so it's money in the bank that's there, but it just hasn't been sold yet, so it'll probably be sold this spring, so it'll hit this year's revenue instead.
Okay, so you think sales when this closes out is going to be around $31,000, and then you've got this 600, 800 bales of first cut. What's that worth?
That's out of the barn $4.25. If I deliver at $5 a bale. Generally, it's delivery, so.
And has that caused you any issues by having 800 bales laying around undercover?
Any issues?
Yeah, you've got 800 bales that are normally gone that you're keeping undercover to keep to a pristine quality.
It's made a little bit of mumble jumble since we had the problem with the pole barn this year, and the fact that I can't do firewood right there right now. But other than that, it's not a problem.
Okay.
But you're trying to get more equipment undercover.
I still got the equipment undercover.
You did?
It's just, yes, sir.
Okay, sale of wood, we're showing projected at $30,000. And this is, I'm sure, combined between cordwood and firewood, the numbers that I'm showing listed here from 2010 through 2012.
Yes, sir.
And is there a higher number than what's listed as 36,200?
Yes, it'll be 40,000, so of what was sold.
Would you like to have that split out? So campfire wood
Is
and
that a wood processing job?
No, no. Hey, you're quick. No, would it be better for you to have campfire wood separate from the cordwood?
I think it'd probably be a good idea. And,
Question?
yes.
So you're asking for a lower, or you're projecting a lower amount of revenue for the sale of wood just to be cautious, or is there a particular reason?
Yes, ma'am. Me personally, I try to show a history of increase before I actually increase what is expected. I think it's better that we make more money than what we were expecting to make than to fall short of that, because I think that's where we have problems when we don't make enough revenue, versus I'd rather make a little over than the prediction. So that's why until we get consecutive years of making closer to 40,000, then I don't feel comfortable moving it up to that amount until we have consecutive years. Just like, for example, the produce, you can see that we had around 6,000 to 7,000 for 2 years in a row. All of a sudden I dropped to 4,000 because I had a bad year. Until I can get that a history made, I'd rather not try to overachieve. I'd rather get it, but not count on you folks to think I'm always going to get that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maintenance income, you showed a high at one time, 31,000, 15,000, 12,500. We're projecting $15,000 worth of income. Is this the income that we're charging the other parts of the campus? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yes. If you add that one and the next line down, I believe is use of equipment around 45,000. So that's a total of 60,000 there, and that's what gets charged from the other departments to the farm.
Commissioner?
I think we just sat through a 3-hour subcommittee meeting, and one of the subjects was apportioning the amount of cost for maintenance, and I think the one in the nursing home alone was 60,000, wasn't it? Wasn't that the figure? We only have 15. That we have total of 60,000 here for all the buildings. What's something wrong?
But some of it's waste removal.
right, in their budgets. There's also another 20,000 as you go down the revenue for maintenance. So the total of what the farm and maintenance get is 80,000.
And what was out of the 60, was it 20 that they figured for?
20 for waste removal, I think.
20 was high. I think they were somewhere in the $16,000 to $18,000 for waste.
Okay, thank you.
I think,
If I could go back to, though, we don't know if that's a real number or not a real number because of our accounting. We've had a lapse of at least 2 months out of this system. Am I correct?
That's the maximum that we could get because the different departments didn't budget anymore?
right. If realistically, if it comes in, let's say that's 60,000, if it comes in at 80,000, they don't have the money to give me that extra 20,000. We're still gonna plow, we're still gonna cut the grass, we just don't get credit for it. So what's happened is we took that 60,000 and we divided it by 4 for quarterly and 15,000 each, because that's what they have in their budget, so, or the combination, let's say. So that's what she did, is just said, okay, 15,000 for quarter 1, 15,000 for quarter 2, because if we go way over, we're not getting the credit anyways. There was times in 08, I believe, when Alan was out here plowing, we had snow, terrible amount of snow. There was no money for the other departments to pay us. And if we turn around and ask the delegation to raise their budget, you know, nobody wants to do that. So we just kind of get stuck in the middle and the work's got to get done. Back to my original opinion, and I would like to hit on this last year, and I would like to hit on this some more, is that I think this whole maintenance thing needs to be restructured. The reason why we do this is because the salaries are coming out of the farm. But if the farm people are doing 70% of their time doing maintenance work, why don't we just move their salaries from the farm to the maintenance department? Because the county's going to have a maintenance cost anyways. There's no, when you run an operation, you're going to have a maintenance deal. So we don't have to go this back and forth and trying to figure out hourly who's paying who to what department. Because at the end of the day, the work's going to get done anyway.
Did you think I was disagreeing with you?
No, I think you definitely agree with me, sir, because I brought it up and I know you've been on my side. I just want to keep that into everybody's mind that maybe we could look at moving forward to doing that at some point. We're not affecting other departments. We're only affecting 2 of the budgets that we run here. To me, it makes perfect sense, because then you can say, you can look at this maintenance budget and you can say, this is what our true maintenance cost is for our facility, not saying, oh, we're mixing in with the wood and we're mixing with the hay and we don't know what this and what that is. We have more of an absolute figure. Just the same as I don't believe the reason why, I don't have any clue why we have an income for a maintenance department. Nobody else on the complex has an income for the maintenance.
Doesn't make income.
I don't know if anybody in this building that maintenance gets an income, or any of Bob Murray has an income slot in his. I've never heard of that, so that's another thing that I disagree with, of why we do things the old way. I think we need to re-examine that.
Yes.
Just quickly make note that the chair of the Performance Audit Committee has heard what you said.
Okay, thank you.
The other income in the past, we've had, what was slated over there for 6,000, 3,000, 2,000, and now 0? What was that income?
Every year I only put 0 because I don't know what I'm going to have, but generally that's scrap metal. I've cleaned out, a couple years ago we cleaned out the piggery, for example. It took probably $3,000 worth of scrap metal out of there. This year, what was it, $1,600 to $1,800? You're seeing on your sheet, I don't have it in front of me, but that scrap metal, that old sanding truck that was falling apart that we sent off to the junkyard, that's generally what the other income is things of that nature. We collect scrap metal from the other departments and I'll store it, and when I get a truckload, we take it out.
Sounds good. You're not projecting any income from scrapping this year?
I couldn't tell you if we were going to or not.
Okay. You show it as 0 and it shows up with money.
Right.
Okay. Let me speak to you now that we've been through that. Any questions on items listed for revenue? Over at the nursing home, you provide them with fresh fruit and other things.
Yes, sir.
Okay. They are showing an expense over there of $3,500.
Yes, sir.
And if I look at sale of produce, I'm at $3,500 just in your line here. 2012, I was at $1,542. Is that number really $3,500 closing out the year there? Or is it $1,500? You're not selling them any more produce, I wouldn't think, at this point in time.
No, what, I'm kind of confused, but if I could just explain, maybe my confusion will be less. The number, the end of the year number on the produce, I said that wasn't right. What you had, I said it was around 4,000.
Okay.
What's happened was a little confusion is I didn't get at the end of the year I take all the slips, how we get the money. I think the question was asked of how do we know how much we charge for produce to the nursing home. We weigh every vegetable and there's a price for every one, and I write out a slip for every one. I have 3 copies of the slips. I keep one goes to the business office, one goes to Rob Horace over at them over there. Problem that happened this year is that I keep those until the end of the year, then I give Rob all his, I give Kathy all of hers, otherwise I'm doing this 3-4 times a week. I do it every day, but I only give it to them at the end of the year. Unfortunately, the paper that goes to Kathy, we just discussed it, she just is getting it now. I thought that I gave it to her earlier to hit this, but I didn't. That was my fault, we didn't get on that. So that's why that number is less. Right now, that's why it's not.
Okay, the 1,500, I understand that.
Right.
So you think that number, you billed out for $4,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Right, but not all for the nursing home.
Okay, well, the nursing home shows $3,500 over there for produce that they bought from you. So we sold $3,500 to the nursing home, and our income was $4,000. So the nursing home is basically our only opportunity to sell product. Is that always the case?
Not always. This year they did get the majority of it. And when I say 4,000, I don't have it in front of me. It's on my computer, but it might be a little over.
Yeah.
But they got the majority of it this year because we had a bad garden. And always when we grow things here, the nursing home gets first dibs at everything. So when I have access, I sell it. But this year I didn't have a lot of excess, so the nursing home got the larger percentage of that line item went to the nursing home because they got the majority of the product that we grew this year.
Okay. And can you tell me how you figure your market price when you're selling blueberries or whatever your product might be? How do you price?
A lot of the pricing is determined for blueberries, for example. We know what the going rate around that people are paying for wholesale pricing. Commissioner Sorensen's a pretty good expert on that also. So we look at different things there. The nursing home, it's often more of a retail price because we're directly taking it to them versus a wholesaling to people. That's based off of a lot of what Rob gets from when he looks at his numbers from buying from, say, Cisco, and then I combine that along with what I know the going rate is, say, the market bulletin, and I try to come in the middle and give the best we can. Obviously, he can buy things from Cisco a lot cheaper when they're all frozen, so we try to come up with a retail price for him, and then the wholesale prices are what we find in the area of what people are, I talk to vendors and what they're paying wholesale, and when we do sell to them, then we go with what that is.
How much time of your day, is that a daily thing? Because food's commodities, like I'm buying gasoline, is that devoting some period of time to it, or is that once a month, or are you looking at the end of the year?
I basically, to be honest, with the nursing home, once a year I set the numbers at the beginning of the season, and we run those same numbers the whole summer. The wholesale that I sell to, their numbers can change up and down, but generally, once they set a price, it's always been the same for the most part. I mean, we don't sell a lot of wholesale to a lot of people, so it's not like it's a huge thing. And once I set the numbers for the nursing home, I stay with the numbers for the year, per pound.
Okay. I just know that my visit to Tamworth farmers market every week, if a bag of tomatoes, 4 or 5, and some corn and some beets and whatever, and I've dropped $40 by the time I leave there. So
Expensive.
I just
too cheap.
less tomatoes.
So the canned
Yeah.
That's right.
We don't get farmers market prices to the nursing home. I mean, you're probably paying, I'm guessing, $3 to $4 a pound for tomatoes, for example. I get like $2 to $2.50 a pound here. We don't get to charge. We don't charge them the same because they can turn around buying from Cisco for $1 a pound. So I try to go in the middle to figure a price for them.
If food's being used, produce is being used over at the jail, it's going through the farm, it's going through the nursing home, because they're using your product over there also, aren't they?
Yes, sir. It goes to them and then they decide who's getting what.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the income? Okay. So we've got the farm. We've been through the water and sewer at this point. There's not much of a change in those departments, is there?
We haven't been through them, but there isn't much of a change on any of the 4 budgets that I've submitted. Very minimal.
Say there's no increases on personnel other than a 40-cent step for sewer and water?
Right.
Okay. Page 14 is the sewer.
The sewer actually is
On the bottom there.
got a decrease this year.
Because of the amount of testing you have to do on a annual basis, is that what that is? Or?
No, it's actually down to new equipment. Last year we had a heater in our grinder building go out, and that's why there was an $8,000 charge. This year we don't have to replace that. I have slated on that piece of paper I gave you before. Last meeting for the new equipment, there's a compressor that needs to be replaced down in our bowl.
Okay. Above sewer on page 14 is maintenance. That's one of yours?
Yes, sir.
And it starts in page 13. Salaries are just the step, the 40-cent step, so retirement's carrying through on all of those items. Unemployment insurance, dental insurance, Medicare, contracted fees and services $1. I'm down to item number 36 on page 14. Apparently don't write a lot of letters. Office supplies are $100, meals. Telephone here is $400 on maintenance. And wasn't it a similar number on the farm budget?
Farm budget was $1,000, sir. The farm.
Okay, so we're 1,400 for, are these different phones that are happening over there, that your cost is somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000, and you're breaking your cost between the departments? Is that what's happening?
Yes, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know how the whole breakdown goes. I do know on the cell phones, 2 of them are charged to the farm, 1 to the maintenance, and 1 to the water department. As far as the landlines and the SCADA system, obviously the SCADA system is probably the water department. The landline is also divided up in there, and I'm not sure exactly what percentage Kathy does on one of the 4 budgets, because we have 1 phone for 4 departments in our building. But there is 1 cell phone that's paid out of the maintenance, 2 out of 1.
I see that sewer's not, sewer department's not claiming any telephone. And I haven't seen water, if water is.
Water does, yes, sir.
How much is water?
Water is, we submitted for 2,500.
So our telephone expenses are somewhere, for your department, are somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000.
Yes, sir.
And explain to me, you said there's cell phones with your operators. What's the SCADA system? What's that?
The SCADA system is the automatic, basically it's an alarm system on the water department, and it tells us, and then also it sends me a daily fax of what our level in the reservoir is, and if anything goes wrong, there's pagers and whatnot. Also, that'll send an emergency page to the employee to let them know something's.
Is that an annual maintenance contract for that?
We've never signed any contract, but it's just something that I believe that we have. I'm not sure how it got started, to be honest. It's just something that we've had since I've been here.
It's a good system.
Maintenance contract on a telephone?
Yeah, I don't think we've never signed one that I'm aware of. I've never presented one to the commissioners to sign. I should fine putting it that way.
Could you just look at and just kind of break out your $4,000? I don't think it's an issue on this, but break down where your costs are on cell phones, what it's costing to have that line, wherever it is in the farm. I'm assuming that if I call in with a problem or an order for the farm, it's ringing there. Is it also ringing there if I'm the water customer and I have a problem, does it ring to the farm? If I, sewer is probably not an issue because that's on the house, so. Just let me know. It just seems like a lot of expense for a phone happening there. And if we're not under a maintenance contract for that water monitoring program, then it really seems high. So if you just look at that, please.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, maintenance.
Yes, sir.
Vehicle lease purchase down to 0. We were at telephone. Vehicle expenses, $1,100. Is there separate vehicle expense on your other budgets also, aren't there? Farm has a vehicle expense?
No, well, the farm has what's called equipment repairs.
Okay.
Sort of same thing, but generally, most of the equipment repairs is most of the farm machinery type stuff. This one is for the trucks, the plow trucks. Primarily what all this money is spent on is the 2 beaters that we have out there we're constantly having to fix. That's where that money goes, is mostly in the pickup trucks.
Okay, and that's different from what's maintenance and repair, which was submitted as 2,000, it's been increased to 4,000, had a high a couple years ago of 3,000.
Yes, the reason why I've been maintaining it primarily at $2,000.
Okay.
Reason why we went up 2,000 is the catch basins need to be cleaned this year on the complex. I think I mentioned that last time we met, and that's the increase for the 2,000. The regular 2,000 is other different things. Say we need gravel to repair a low spot in the road, cold patch, different repairs that are outside maintenance type things.
Okay. Insurance has been reduced over the years at $1,500. It's pretty close to 12's numbers. But
the business office gives me that number.
Not much need for IT, it looks like. And the energy line was put in for what reason? What was that?
Before my time, so I have.
I'm down to 099 on page 14. There's a category for energy with 0 on it.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Was there going to be a study or something done at one point prior to
Could that have been done with Albee and his, the money he spent to take the wind test up on top of the building?
No, because he took that out of maintenance and repair, I think, that year. That's why it was bumped up in 2010.
Well, we didn't budget anything for it. So
Yeah, that's what I said, you don't have to go there. So we've been through maintenance, we've been through the farm. Sewer system has been reduced from 55 to 48,000. Water is where on here? We have your last department is water.
Yes, sir.
Page 3 on my original. Okay.
It's down 4%, 4.3%.
Water, you haven't billed out for the rest of the year. There's still almost half your money hasn't been billed out from what was shown here at 11/30. You got $8,241 of the $16,500.
Oh, yes. She does that. That's Kathy Geary. She does that quarterly. She takes it in certain chunks, I believe.
Okay.
And then she journals it because that employee, half the salary comes from water, another half from farm.
The farm side showed the increase, or sewer showed an increase, didn't it? But, well, where's their pay increase? Because this is pretty, did that show up under the farm?
So,
Didn't your folks receive?
yes, most of it would be,
40
it's the 40 cents, so however she figured it, she went from 16,483 last year to 16,536 is the increase that went into the 40 cents, and the rest of it, I guess, is picked up by the farm.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
where is the water revenue showed on the revenue?
Is it an enterprise fund or something? There's,
No, maybe maintenance income or something? There's no line item.
Yeah, it is, it's under general, it's the third item down, water department income.
yes, income of
Page
58.
1 of the revenue.
Oh.
Should have gone there. Let's go there while we're here. Water department income has been in the neighborhood of $59,000, $60,000. Apparently, again, the journal hasn't been brought current, and we're showing a revenue of $59,000 projected, $1,000 more this year than the following year. Well, actually, no. You had budgeted 58, and the commissioners had budgeted another 1,000. Do you have a new customer?
No, and they might have a department head on there, but I have nothing to do with the revenue.
Oh, no, I know that. I'm just asking.
So that's on them. I'm not sure.
Didn't we pick up one of your customers?
I don't know if you've ever picked them up.
No, matter of
We
fact,
didn't?
no, as a matter of fact, we still got a meter, but no, we didn't pick them up, that I'm aware of.
How come?
I don't know.
He hasn't tied into the systems, my understanding.
Oh, that's his expense.
Well, you provide the product, and I don't think that he's tied in. So.
Okay.
So is that what you think you were basing that on, was an increase of a customer? Possibly?
We haven't changed the rate.
Okay.
How many would we have in arrears though?
I don't know.
That line was a substantial number a couple of years ago.
Well, we've got one or two customers that pay on like a monthly basis. They can't pay the whole amount at one time. So we let them pay it gradually.
We can save that for the commissioners meeting. So your income is shown under farm for your department and under the water department, which you don't have control of. But other than that, you don't have another income stream in the budget.
Just the maintenance one that I talked about,
Oh, okay.
but
Yes. Thank you.
I think it's 20,000.
All right, so back to waterworks. Testing goes up and down from year to year. You're at $2,500. Legal is an $800 item. Some years you've spent more, some years you've spent less. You've spent a lot more in other years. Okay, commissioners were comfortable with that. Jump in office supplies to $500. Do you have any reason for that?
We've always kept it at 500. We just, I don't know what the end of the year was for 2012, but we kept it at a minimum, and then sometimes that gets, every other year when our licenses are due, depending on how many employees are due at once. I know there's a line item for that, but sometimes we go over on that line item, I think. But we just, basically we didn't spend very much this year on office supplies.
$512 in 209, $588 in 210.
211, 117.
Yep.
Maybe Kathy could get us an update shortly on where we are, because we only had 47 for half a year.
Sometimes I think when the business office, when they do like their envelopes and things to mail out different stuff to the customers, they have to come back and do the journal entry to take that money out of there. So maybe some of that is the reason why it didn't get charged enough.
That's what I'm saying. If you can just update, it would appear that you had a trend up. Maybe the old director had embossed business cards and you're not doing that. So that might be an expense there. So
Business cards.
it might be. So dues, licenses, subscription. You're saying when the 2-year cycle comes forward that the water operator, sewer operator has to be renewed. That could fluctuate up or down. Is that
Right.
how that goes?
Right.
So you're anticipating more of those coming due this year, and you're at
Yes.
$500.
They are due this year.
Okay. Postage. Is that mostly sending out billings and so forth?
It's supposed to be the business office, when they do that, they're supposed to charge us for the postage on sending bills, and also when the state tells us their consumer confidence reports, things of that nature, when we have to mail those out.
Do you do your best on the consumer confidence reports to hand deliver those out as opposed to mailing them?
We do. We try to hand deliver the ones we can, like on the complex and such. And then what we also try to do is bundle it in at the same time the quarterly bill is going out, and try to stuff it all in one envelope, basically.
Good. Thank you. Uniform expenses, I don't expect I'll get much traction to go with my usual story on that one. Just glad to know we're paying for your boots and coats. Electric expense, $7,200. Pretty close to where you've been. And that's for maintaining booster pumps and everything else. That's what the electric expense is.
Yes.
Telephone, here's at $2,500. Did we figure that in on our $4,000-something number we were working on earlier?
Yes, you did, so that's what you got.
All right, so take a peek at that. Travel expenses, is that conferences and so forth? What is travel expenses?
Yes, if you notice, there's a downward trend of use of that, because now we have vehicles here at the farm. Before, employees had to use their vehicles to take water samples, Concord and such. We didn't hardly use, I don't believe, any this year, 2012. And so I went from 500 of what we had last year down to 250. If that continues next year, quite possibly we will have it very minimal, if anything, in there. There is just an occasion where we might go to a school and I don't have the truck freed up because of something. That's why I wanted to leave a little in there. For example, when I went to get my testing done, I was in the middle of a snowstorm. I couldn't take the plow trucks for the county because the employees needed it, so we needed a reserve to be able to do my mileage. But generally speaking, it should be very minimal now.
Do you, you collect all your own samples, and are you using the state lab for analysis?
Yes, most of there's a few things that the state doesn't test, but in those we have to send out, like uranium and such. When that comes up, I think we have to send it to Florida. But most of almost everything that we test is done through the state.
When you're doing, I imagine, your water samples, standard analysis for bacteria and so forth, you're quarterly on that, or are you monthly on that?
Monthly, and that one's not done at the state, but that one is done monthly.
Is there a reason why we're not quarterly for that? If you want to discuss that later with me, we can.
Don't we take some samples up to North Conway?
That's sewer samples, yes. Every other Wednesday we take sewer samples to Concord, Conway,
okay.
Excuse me, Conway. But once a month is when we have the bacteria done.
And that is going to, that's going to a company to take care of you, or that's going to the state?
The company does that. They come pick it up here.
Okay, and
We draw the sample and they just pick the sample up at the nursing home.
okay, is it because of the nursing home that keeps your frequency at monthly as opposed to quarterly?
I think that's the reason why. To be honest, I'd have to double check with either the state or with Wayne, but I believe, from what I recall, it's because of the type of residents that we have in the nursing home. It has to be done more frequently.
Okay, if you could find that out for
Yeah.
me, I'd appreciate it. So someone is taking, you're taking the water samples, they're being picked up, it's being done monthly, and it's costing us $250. That's what I'm seeing for, basically for that service.
No. You're under travel expense and now you're talking about testing.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, on the okay, I apologize.
That's it.
So, for the travel expenses here, that's not for your monthly water samples.
No.
So what was that for?
Like if we have to go to classes, the example I gave is most of the time, like I said, we take a county vehicle, but
Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay, I thought we were driving every sample every month.
no.
Okay,
We do go to Conway every 2 weeks, but
okay. Chemicals are pretty much in line. Vehicle. Maintenance and repair, $3,500. Is that pretty much, it's higher than, is any of this expense on the maintenance repair because we lost pumps or?
Right, that's generally pump, good example, pump replacement. Other things, one thing I can think of just a couple months ago that we replaced was there's a machine that tells us the depth of the water in our reservoir. I can't think of the technical name. That went out, and that sends faxes every day to me to tell me what our water level is. That went out, so we had to replace that. And a lot of the different, different pumps and things of that nature. It's kind of a catch-all for things that go, that, generally pump speaking, that go bad.
Okay. Labor costs at $12,000. Is that our what's in there?
That generally is been at 12,000. I haven't increased that, but that's another one of those weird things that needs to be looked at, I think, at some point. But it goes to the farm as revenue. So if let's say my farm employee, one of them is half water, half farm, but the other employee, say he does something on the water department, he's not paid by it, his salary doesn't come out of the water department, so the water department needs to be charged for his labor to go to the farm.
Okay. Seems like a high number.
It depends on how much time we're spending there, I guess. I'd have to get more of a clear answer. I'd have to ask Kathy how that's a journal entry thing,
Yep.
Something I don't control. But I could get you more of an answer on why Kathy does what she does with that line.
Okay, thank you. Insurance, relatively the same number. New equipment, information technology, $75.
Budget is down 4%.
Budget is down 4%. Any questions for Will on that? Okay, so that takes us through your budget, your expenses and your revenue. I have a question for you. When we were over to the jail subcommittee 2 times previous to this, Jason had mentioned, Superintendent Jason had mentioned an issue with the Sally Port entrance and exit over there with the drainage issue. And he brought forward a proposal, if I remember right, Chairman Schmidt, of $8,000. I see the subcommittee has reduced that to $5,000 on your recommendation. And I guess how much time, how much effort's been spent by the farm to try and come to a solution over there? I know that the commissioners went to the town. I spoke to the road agent for Ossipee. I know there was a question to get the town to pave past there. And I believe from my conversation with the road agent that they had done some regrading and ditching over there to help assist. But Jason, superintendent, keeps mentioning that it's a constant problem for him. What have we been doing? And if I could, before I get there, Representative Schmidt, what was the $5,000 that's being put into what was that to be used for?
That would be for blacktop.
Apron.
Yeah.
Pay the aprons.
And that was just
And I think there's some drainage work too that we do before the blacktop.
My question to you is, why would that have not been an issue for outside maintenance to be taken care of? There's a drainage swale up there ahead that apparently isn't connected and working. I'm wondering why that isn't something that we handled as far as outdoor maintenance as to the direction and apparent aggravation that's caused up to this point.
To start with, I think you're right on both accounts. The town has come out and improved the drainage down in there. They did some work this last summer, I believe. We're constantly, the main problem is the main entrance into where all of you would go into park, not the one between the buildings. That one has a little issue, but it's the main problem is the one up there. It constantly floods out down through there, and huge holes and ditch holes. We constantly take and get gravel and put the gravel in there, smooth it out. Next big snow rainstorm comes through, washes it down there. If you look down the lawn, you'll see there's a lot of material that's gotten down in there. Why it wasn't paved all the way out to the road with the apron at the first point, I don't know. I wasn't here then. And could that be a maintenance issue? I would think so. I agree. Superintendent Johnson was the one that decided that he wanted to put it in his budget because the jail tends to do a lot of things like that over there. We did just talk this last week about, I talked to the commissioners about some paving issues that we have out here at this building, and when I talked with Jason about that, we're going to try to, he asked me to look into it when we get springtime to get estimates on, or more accurate estimates on both of them, because the commissioners want to try to do it at the same time while all the equipment is here. So it is something that I am looking into, but he's the one that's budgeted in his budget.
Okay.
That one would be moved to the outside budget under that maintenance and repair, could easily be done.
Yeah, I don't know one way or the other on that. My question is just how it's being handled. And if it comes to pass that you're going to pave those areas that we spoke of, would your maintenance department be doing the prep for all those so that all we're paying is for asphalt laying?
We have in the past. In the past when we did stuff out here, we went down to the rent center and rented the asphalt cutter, and cut it in a packer, the gas one, and we get the materials here and we pack it, so when they come in, they just lay the asphalt.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions before we go through, I would say we could safely go through water, maintenance, sewer, for a recommendation?
Yeah.
Yes, go right ahead, Rick.
I did have a question on the sewer, the 20,000, I'm not sure what it was called. What was I? Oh, yeah. Waste removal? Yeah, the waste removal. So is that just pumping septic, pumping out, what is that?
Yes, sir. It's kind of confusing around here, I understand. I'm sure you heard a lot about this, folks that were over at the nursing home, but we have down in our sewer system, we have 40,000 gallon tanks down there. Twice a year, those tanks get pumped. What happens is when the solids make it down, they go through the grinder building, and then from the grinder building, they settle into a tank, a 40,000 gallon tank. That's the one that's done twice a year. And then from there, the water goes down and is treated before it goes out of the plant. But you'll also find that each building has its own tank at its building before it all goes down to our system. So it's just another way that's removed. And those each building has in their budgets, you'll notice there's probably some kind of septic pumping line item that comes out of their budgets because they pay for it out of theirs. This one is just for the sewer department down there. The nursing home, for example, there's been a lot of discussion about grease traps and the regular ones that we had all that done just this last week. But they have a series of three or four outside of their building before it all goes down to ours, and then ours catches more.
This is only yours?
This is only ours, yes.
Where do we see these others getting pumped?
They would be in there probably, I would guess, I'm not real familiar with their budgets, but I would guess that Bob Murray probably has a section under his for grease pump trapping and for his sewage, his over there. I would think Jerry probably has somewheres on his for this building. There's a small one here. It's only, I think, 1,500 to 2,000 gallon tank out here. It's a small one. Maybe it went up to 3,000, but it's not real big. And then over there they have at least 3 regular ones, and then they have 3 grease traps. We used to only have 1 grease trap, but the advantage of having 3, we have to pump it more, but it's catching more grease, which is saving our system in the long run.
Plant operations in a nursing home for sewage removal is $9,000.
Okay. So it's broken out. Further question, Representative
Probably
Bucco?
adds up to quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
No.
We like to say my business smells like money.
Thank you.
So I'd like to move on sewer system, the commissioner's budget of $48,502. Is there a second? Second by Bucco. All those, discussion?
So you want to word that you move to accept, appropriate can't appropriate the subcommittee
No,
recommendation.
it's the subcommittee's recommendation to approve.
To appropriate.
For approval, expenditure of $48,502.
Should be to approve full delegation appropriations.
Well, we're recommending, these are the recommendations.
We can clean, we can
We know what it
we can
means.
clean it up.
Okay.
Your type of minutes.
You wanna do something.
Yeah, we don't spend 3 days.
Okay.
We're not giving our interim secretary the opportunity to back out of here.
Don't push her
I
too
have
hard.
another comment on that when we're done with this vote.
So, moved and seconded, $48,502. All those in favor will say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? None. Unanimous.
Who seconded, please?
Bucco? Maintenance on page 13, probably following to, yes.
The clerk needs a temporary break, so someone will need to take
Good
over
idea.
for
Let's
her.
take a break. Allow her that opportunity.
Thank you.
Did we make that motion?
Move Commissioner's budget of $91,831.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Just repeat the number for me.
91,831. Which I believe was a reduction of 4%, was it? Was there a reduction of 3.4?
Increased by 3.4.
There was an increase? I was quick to move on this one.
3.4.
Catch basin.
Up by $3,000.
Catch basins was our reason, because of $4,000. Yep. Further discussion? All those in favor will signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposition? None.
No, but was that seconded by Representative?
Representative Schmidt.
Representative Schmidt, thank you.
On sewer, water, page 3. Water is a reduction of 4.3. I will move the Commissioner's budget of $52,741.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
No opposition, passes unanimously. The water sewer maintenance. All we're left with is farm at this point.
So I think the Commissioner made a good point that
Wasn't any change, anything you're looking for, was there? I mean, the wood splitter, but that's under capital
reserves.
reserve.
Farm didn't change.
Farm was at 0 increase.
Farm is something like farm, page 17.
Farm, Commissioner's budget is 100 and, 1 second here.
177,373.
177,373. Discussion still to move forward on the capital expenditure, I agree. We've gone through this. I will move that amount. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor will signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous. I believe that does all of yours, Will?
Yes, sir, I just had one other question.
Yes.
We talked about it last time. I know the Commissioners weren't able to have it in their budget, but setting up a capital reserve, however you want to call it, fund for replacement of pickup trucks in the maintenance department. We talked about it last time. I proposed, I think I handed out a sheet, I don't know if Representative Bucco got it, but about $10,000 a year, so that way in the next 3 years we can replace our truck, which is already 4 years old. That'll be 7 years at that point, 7, 8 years old. I don't know if that's gotten stirred any thoughts or what the subcommittee would want to do with that, but I just don't want it to be forgotten about.
Representative Smith.
No, I think it's a great idea to establish a capital reserve account, but I would say to the commissioners, it would be up to you guys to plug in the line and propose.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, there's one other bit of information we talked about over at the subcommittee meeting for the nursing home. And I made a suggestion to the commissioners that they revisit outside snow plowing contract and plug in today's numbers and take another look at the matrix on how we agreed, what was agreed on as far as frequency, cycles, and so forth, and what has to be plowed, whether it's driven by inches or storm, or what hours specifically had to be done. And if you yourself would take a look at the old bid that you put out, the bid specifications, and then with a good open eye, take a look at it and see, are you adhering to it? And is that really the reasonable standard to propose?
We do it cheaper.
Right, we do it cheaper. I think he's just asking that the standard that we put out for the contractors, are we doing that? And I'll definitely look it up and do that again.
Please. Mayor, whether there were specific requirements that had to be plowed on this cycle, that cycle, shift changes, times, and everything else. And I'd like you to really look at it and say, yes, indeed, but maybe, historically, it's not a need. So I'm just suggesting as an individual through the commissioner, it doesn't have to be done this week, next week, but I would really like to revisit that, publish that prior to then going out to bid if it turns out being that.
I would say, Mr. Chairman, that this probably wouldn't be the best time for us to go out for a quote for it. I think probably in the summer when people realize that there might be an opportunity to do the snow plowing rather than now, when they know we're probably not going to hire somebody to do it for a month and a half.
Oh, I agree. I'm not asking you to do it right now. What I'm asking is, okay, well, I apologize. I didn't mean for it now. I'm looking at next year's cycle, or maybe even 2 years from now. We're talking about trucks with a 7-year life. It's like anything else. We start factoring in all those things. So look at it in all honesty, because I think the specs were way out of line for what
See if we can get somebody to come in and give us a.
Well, that's the thing,
estimate.
That was going to be my question, is how many times am I going to ask contractors to come in and give us prices, give us liable prices, and then they're not going to want to do it?
I'm not asking for that.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought you were asking.
What I'm asking for is let's pull out the spec sheet of what you put out.
Yep.
You had somebody bid at $90,000. That was unreasonable. Take a look at that spec sheet. I'd like to have it circulated again, at least to the delegation. You take a look at that and say, yeah, this is exactly what I do. I'm here, I make sure that it's done on this hour. And I mean an open eye, because it is or it isn't. And then we can look at possibly in the future adjusting that and possibly taking another look. I apologize, I'm not asking you to go out to bid.
Okay.
I want to pull out the bid specifications that we asked for everybody that they were going to perform under. Send that to the delegation or send it to me as a subcommittee. And then I want you to take a look at it and say, yeah, Representative, that's exactly what we do. Or I think we didn't need to have this spec and that spec. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking you to expend time to go out and go to bid at this point in time.
And you're on salary, so you'll have to figure that in there also, what it costs for us to do it.
No, I'm not looking. I'm not even looking for that. What I'm looking for is the spec sheet that you distributed.
Just want to know if that's what I'm doing, or if
Yeah.
that's unreasonable from what we created. I understand what you're saying.
And is that really what you're adhering to?
Right.
So if you distribute that to the subcommittee so that we can see it, you take a look at it for a future discussion. It doesn't have to be done in the next month or so. We got plenty of time, and let's take a look at it and see if that was realistic, or maybe we could fine tune that.
So you're asking him to distribute that to this subcommittee?
Jason has mentioned that he has money in his budget, maybe this was cleared up in the last subcommittee, I apologize, last item, that he had money in his budget yearly, twice a year, to remove snow completely around his exterior perimeter, and that it hasn't had to be done over a couple of years' time. But it's budgeted, is there money in his budget to pay maintenance to go over there, to clear outside?
There's supposed to be, I guess.
Take
How,
snow off the roof.
not on the jail.
I thought we had to move the snow away from the building.
Right, when it gets built up, he, how it stands right now, when it gets built up over the jail, he'll call me and say, you know, I need it bucketed away from the building, or the parking lots need to be pushed back, because his budget is limited, I guess. So I leave it up to his,
He has money in there.
yeah, I leave it up to his determination of when it needs to be done versus all the other buildings. I make the determination and I go out and do it. Because of budgeting issues with him, he wants to make the determination, so it's his responsibility to call me when he wants it done.
Thank you. Do you have a rate sheet that you use, that you charge the other departments when you use a backhoe, labor, and so forth?
Yes.
Could you distribute that to me, please?
So where would he have that money buried, under care of grounds, I guess?
Yes.
I don't know what else it would be.
Yep.
I think you mentioned last, maybe that might have been a private conversation after when.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, when we were out there
No, I
talking.
remember, he said he had money in it to go around the snow blower around the perimeter of the building.
Well, they wanted
I mean,
a
you
snow
want-
blower.
You want a snow blower for inside, didn't he?
No, I'm talking about, he said he had the money in his budget to go around it with a snow blower or a tractor or something.
Yeah, for the tractor, using maintenance for that, yep. Snow blower was a different issue. So if there's no further questions, I want to thank you one and all. Thank you, Madam Secretary, esteemed representative, for assisting.